What is up, everybody? Oh, welcome to the Right Mindset. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. This is my beard, and today we are back onto our Sunday 2 p.m. Where we ultimately, and I'm not making this up, we are going to be writing a book in real time, as we have been for 6 episodes leading to this moment. If you don't know and you're joining in, it's been a ride. We brainstormed, we did a loose outline, and now we are officially on the chapter outlines. We're on chapter 2 today, so we'll see how it is. We got some people in the comments. Let's check it out. Bloop. What is up, Angel? How's it going? Welcome to the show. Bloop's beard. I mean, Snoot. My beard thanks you. I started using the structure in the novels I'm outlining. That's awesome. I really hope it's helping, because that's the whole point. Is like I'm showing just different ways to approach things, and that's the whole goal. That's the whole goal. Hi, everybody. What's up, the amazing Yosh? I'm saying that completely wrong. Let's see. Let's use my Google Translate. Yash. I like to try to get things right here. Let's see. Yash, I got that right. Okay, Yash, what's up, the amazing Yash? I love the wizard. I'll be honest with you. All right. Hey, what's up, Flowers? What's up? So glad I got my chicken stir fry made so I can eat and listen. Nom, 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 nom. I'm happy too. I'm very happy that you got some chicken stir fry over there. I was wondering if maybe you could send me some. Sans the mushrooms, though. Mushrooms will kill me. That's a fact. I am allergic to them. Also, if you notice, my microphone sounded really good today, because I realized what the issue was. All right. Good for you, Flowers. What's up? All right. I'm on episode 3 of this series. That's awesome. And I'm glad you're sort of like going back and forth, like, hey, what's up? You're in, because, it's going to get exciting. Series. It is. I mean, I can smell it from over here, and I know you're over the pond, as one might say, but listen, I'm in for the win. All right, let's do it. Let's get into it. Bloop. All right. Woo! As we know, these are our brainstorming notes. Let's scroll down. We did plot point 1, also known as chapter 1 for us, because again, our goal is to do 27 chapters, so each plot point represents a chapter. But again, that might change, and that's okay. Because remember, during the process, it's not necessarily about restricting yourself. It's about letting the story unfold as it's needed. Today, I put my daughter on watching Peter. Listen, Peter Rabbit is an excellent babysitter, I assure you. Has watched me many a times in my day. So yeah, we're trying to do 27 chapters. So right now we are on plot point 2. So let's do this. Let's get it going. All right, so this is technically chapter 1. So now we are moving on to chapter 2. All right. What do we need to happen here? I don't know, Thomas. Let's work through it. Now, again, as you're watching, please remember, you're more than welcome to ask me questions. You can ask me questions that pertain to what I am doing. I'm going to talk through it, as I always do. But you could also ask me questions on anything you're working on, especially if it's connected to what we are doing, where you're like, oh, he's working on the inciting incident. What does that look like? And why does his arms move when he talks? And then I have to explain I'm Sicilian. So that's, if I sit on my hands, it'd be quiet the whole time. And we know most people would enjoy that. All right. So let's see what we have within the inciting incident. As we know, the inciting incident disrupts the status quo of plot point 1. So now we must disrupt that status quo. We've already worked it out. Let's see. She, as in Laura. Olivia. All right. Gets a call, hired to do another shipment, and heads to the shipping dock. Now, this is the fun part about writing and creativity. This, to me, would be a waste. We've talked about word count before on this channel and probably on this series. Is it worth the word count? Looking at this moment does not feel like it's worth the word count. because we could just be at the docks, right? We could just show up at the docks and the day stuff. What's it say? As you know, I'm writing romance novels, so it helps me. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I will say this. I'm trying not to make this a romance novel per se. It's supposed to be action, adventure, sci-fi, but it has like a romance subplot to it, which is just playful. But it doesn't. I'm not trying to get all the beats that are supposed to be in a romance. Oh, excellent. I'm just letting the viewers in general know. But for anyone who is writing a genre base, just know in the file, the folder that I have, that's free for everybody. You don't have to sign up for anything. You just click the link. It takes you to your Google folder. There is a genre beat file in there that tells you the beats that you should have for certain different genres. I will be adding to it, and I'm constantly updating and adjusting it. So just look at the dates occasionally, and you'll see if I added or changed. Anyway, with that said, so I think I'm going to get rid of this particular beat. But again, we don't. Well, obviously, I'm going to end up deleting on this page. But in general, we don't delete on the main page. So it won't be deleted on the main page. She shows up the dock, loads up the ship. So I think I'm going to do something where she shows up and basically, because the inciting incident isn't necessarily that she gets another call for shipment. The inciting incident is that she gets hijacked, right? So it could just be another day. So she doesn't need to get a call and be like, hey, we need you to work, right? So we're just going to show her up, all right? So let's do that. Oh, let me uno momento, por favor. All right. By the way, today, if anyone cares, I was working on my trying to get my Italian better. I don't know why, but I thought it was about time that I start relearning my Italian. And the first lesson was un tè or un caffè. And I just want you to know, I don't drink coffee, so I don't understand why I would ever need to say a coffee in Italiano. She shows up to the docks. Oh, remember, we always want to use Laura, Olivia. You want to always use the name as much as possible, just so it kind of like as you're working on it, it gets just distilled into your head. Not that you have to use the word all the time when you're writing. It's just I do it during the outlining to get going. Good to know, right? Grazie mille, por favore, sucremento grande, telemias, por favor. All right. My father used to say, "Gifa, statasi t'aspetta," and I'd be like, "Yes, father." And I'd be like, "Do you know what you're saying?" And he's like, "Yeah. Do you?" And I'd be like, "No." All right, here we go. Laura Olivia shows up to the dock, loads up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of place these in order, and then I'm going to build on the beats so we can sort of have a movement, okay? All right, so we did this one. All right, Laura gets ready to leave. All right, so you might be saying, Thomas, what are you doing? Well, what I'm doing is I'm creating scene beats, all right? So when I use these, it's either a scene beat or it'll be a complete location switch. So in the first chapter, I used it to indicate that she's on the ship, then she's on the dock, and then she's home, right? So to me, her showing up to the docks and loading up the ship, and she's working as she normally would, nothing crazy going on. That would be the setup scene. But this would be her inside the ship getting ready. So it would be a new all right, let's see. All right. And as you can see, we get right into the hijack. Hijacked! Okay. So that means, and by the way, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to beat out the scene itself, but I'm just like organizing it. So, all right. All right. So as you can see, this is probably just a 2 scene. Well, technically it's 3 scenes. And the reason is because she's working, she's getting the ship ready, and she gets hijacked, and then they're trying to get out of there, and they're being shot at by the authorities. So that technically is 3 scenes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. Boop. Boop. The ship gets shot out and the authorities start getting into ships of their own. All right. So look at that. We got all the beats. So now I can delete this because I don't need this here. Beep, beep. All right. So what does this look like? Laura Olivia shows up to the docks. Oh, do we have a name for the guy at the or the person at the docks? Let's see. I don't think so yet. Not yet. Not yet. Speak with the field element. What is this person? And then position called. Why don't I have a name? I don't have a name. All right. So as you can see, I've told you in the past that what I'll do is I'll work on a chapter. Like if I hit chapter 2, then I'll go back to chapter 1 and seed stuff. Because I'm on the same file right now, I can kind of do it in real time. I'm going to go back and seed. I'm not going to give him a name yet, but what is this position called? Laura needs to bang on it to get it out. Let's see. Okay. We'll start up here. Has an issue. Okay. Oh. Okay. All right. Laura is speaking with the field navigator. Give them a name. I wrote them because I don't. It could be a man or a woman. It doesn't matter, right? It could be a because it's sci-fi. I can make it whatever I want. Give them a name. And a relationship with Laura. Thomas, that shouldn't be a semicolon. I know. All right. Semicolon is when two clauses work alone but are connected. All right. Okay. So for now, let's call it, give them a name. I don't have a name for them yet. So all right. Laura is speaking casually with field. They call him. It's the problem with the navigator. Probably. Okay. And the conversation is normal stuff about travel, transporting. They talk about their partner relationship. Okay. And they ask Laura about her romance novel that she hasn't started yet. All right. So why do we do that? Well, anytime we could seed familiarity or history, that's important when writing. And even though this is a relationship that we're only seeing in chapter 1 and 2, and maybe we'll see it at the very end, it's little moments like this that establish history between characters. So if this character knows that she is working on a novel, what does that tell us? It tells us that, hey, they know each other, right? But also, if the conversation is about they feel comfortable talking with each other and they're talking about relationships and stuff like that, that really helps kind of build what we call chemistry, right? Because they could play with each other, they could talk with each other, they're comfortable with each other. That's all chemistry. All right. All right. They are loading her ship. They are loading Laura's ship up. She's working as she normally does, nothing crazy. And by the way, this is just a loose outline as always. Remember, we start with general thoughts and ideas, and it's as we build each step. All right. That's how we're going to build on it. The other thing is the more general and the less detail and complication I make things, the more I concede and have the room for it. And what that means is how I went back and I added the just now I added the field navigator line here, right? It's a small little seed, but that cost words, right? That's a cost my word budget. But at the same time, now I know it's going to help add to this moment because we are continuing to allow her ordinary world to really fill out, which then in turn allows us to disrupt it. There's an emotional core there. Well, what is the emotional core? The emotional core is at the field navigator. Once we obviously name them, I'll have an emotional core to it. But their concern for Laura is now our concern for Laura, right? So the way they're reacting and they're worried and they're seeing this unfold and the way they might be so there we go. Like just talking it through, let's see. I'm just going to add the beat right here, but I'll adjust it in a second. All right. The field navigator is calling Laura on the translator, worried and concerned for her. Now, the reason we have to do that is because remember, this is going to be written in first person. I normally like writing in third person limited, but as an exercise and because this is all for fun, I'm going to approach this in first person, which means that anything the main character experiences or learns has to be through their perspective. So I can't really like cut the scene to say the field navigator. So we allow them to. Anyway. By the way, I do this when I'm by myself too. Like I talk through ideas. Like I might sit there and I'll say, Laura, just what I did. Laura is speaking to the field navigator, and it's like, oh, it's all right. I just seeded it, so they definitely have a relationship. Well, if they have a relationship, if she's in trouble and they have a way to talk with her, well, obviously they would talk with her. So what would they say? What would they do? All right. So I try to create cause and effect, and that's a very important element of writing in general. Major general. But at the same time, remember everything we put down can be changed. Okay. So we have the first beat, which is very straightforward. This will probably be like maybe 500 words, maybe 550 words, right? Oh, what do we got here? What do we got here? I love questions. Do you ever box yourself in with first person narrative? Not really, because the thing that you have to remember with first person narrative is that it is a choice, right? So if I wanted to go to somebody else's POV to sort of get a secondary opinion, I know that the first person would not be the story I'm trying to tell, if that makes sense. Like if I'm going in and I want multiple POVs, then I know I have to sort of bring it back to third person. If I choose first person, I know that I'm going to push it through their experience no matter what. So I've already accepted that. And that sort of gives me the freedom to just be like, this is the story I'm trying to tell. However, that doesn't mean you can't create a secondary chapter or a hard chapter break and change the POV to somebody else in first person. But that does become a little jarring. But again, it's all creative. It's all writing. So you can try things. In one of the epic fantasy novels I'm working on, there's a chapter called From a Different Perspective. And it's the first time we are in the minds of the soldiers. All right. The rest of the book, it's always in the POV of the protagonist, and it's third person limited. But I decided to write this chapter in first person, but I also wrote it in third person so I can compare them. And then when I had my alpha readers go through the manuscript, I had them read the first person first because that was my intention, my creative intention. And then I had them read the third person because that would be the comfortable one. I would say 75% of the readers really liked the shift into first person, but they felt that it didn't have the same impact as the third person limited, only because of the way I was moving through third person limited, the way I describe things, the way the narrative was just flowing naturally. Because again, that is my most common form of writing. So it wasn't that they were like, it was jarring. It was just, whatever. But I did write it in first person, then I did write it in third person. The other thing that made it difficult is that it goes through 5 characters in one chapter through the first person, because every time a soldier dies, the POV switches to the person they saw last, watching them die. So that was the difficult. So again, try things. And I think that's what cuts up the box. As long as you're willing to try things, nothing is wrong of a choice. It's just after you try it, if it's not working, that's really the hard. See, I always tell people writing is easy. Like Sarah met Tom. Like that is writing. We have a subject, we have a character, we have the action, and the entire story is done. Sarah met Tom, right? But the hard part about writing is asking the questions, the right questions, answering those questions, trying to discover who, what, when, why, where, like all that. That's the part that makes writing hard. So to answer your question completely, do you ever box yourself in with first person narrative? I try things. If I make choices, I try to stand by those choices. But if it's not working, I will happily adjust and change things, because I am the god of the writing world. Like if I'm writing a book, right? When you're writing a book, you are God, right? Technically, you're God. You're like, I want this planet to exist. I want this world to exist, right? You're creating. So you ultimately have the final say in how you present that art. Also, that's a pretty cool power to have, right? I want to have lum-num-nums, and they're little creatures now. And look at the lum-num-nums. Right? Who doesn't want to have a lum-num-num? Anyone? Orange whip? 3 orange whips? All right. Who wants a lum-num-num-num-num? Okay. What is a lum-num-num-num-num-num? You tell me in the comments. All right. Laura is speaking casually. They load up. So, like I was saying, this is probably going to be 500, 550 words, hopefully. That's the goal. Let's get to the fun part. Laura is getting ready. Oh, by the way, if you notice, I set up my chapters. See, I did it up here too. I set up my chapters in 3 beats. I do a setup, I do a conflict, and then I do a resolution. Hey, JK. Wait, you can't. Oh, wait, you can see me. You can see me. I can't see you wave, but you can see me wave. But I see your little wavy hand, so that counts. That counts. We just waved at each other. I'll accept that. We'll have to ask the internet gods. All right. But so now I'm working on the conflict or the disruption of the setup, because I try to do that, right? A new alien language. That blah 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 blah. I'll accept it. That's funny. Jointly, yeah, but at least you're here, Cindy, and that's the fun. That is the fun. I'm glad you can see me wave. I appreciate it. I like that you can see me wave. How are you and your cat? I'm doing very well, thank you. I appreciate that. For those who don't know, I have restrictive lung disease. Today is a good day. It's snowing outside, so I when it rains, I feel a little like, but I'm doing good today. The cat is happily taking a nap under the table right now. So if she pops up, it's because she woke up and wants petting. And sometimes she wakes up from nightmares and she just starts going, and she just looks for me and runs, and she runs over. Yeah, the snow is nice. I'm at the age where I like snow because I don't have to go out, I don't have to go outside. But I think I'm at the age where I'm also not enjoying winter per se, if that makes sense. like I like cold. I'm a New Yorker by birth. I like I like putting a blanket on or a jacket. But sometimes my tootsies are too cold. All right. So let's do this conflict. My cat and I got scared during a thunderstorm. I mean, let's be honest. A thunderstorm is scary. It's you're just sitting there, especially when it just comes out of nowhere and you just get that first big, you know, and you're just like, what is going on? I'm sure Flowers knows, right? Because it rains in England. I believe it does. How do you know which plot should go where? I.e., my opening line is "He's back," which could be the inciting incident, the hook, etc. Lots more ideas like that. So, how do I decide where it's plotted? Exactly. It is now. See, I knew it was raining. All right, let's answer Cindy's question. So, Cindy, what decides the inciting incident? If it disrupts the ordinary world and you set the ordinary world. So if your ordinary world is the he's back, right? How do you, right? You're saying the opening line is he's back, which it's not the inciting incident because you're setting up the ordinary world in that trauma or in that energy or in that action. He's back, right? It's sort of like if you start your chapter off with somebody who's tied up in a chair, they can't see anything, but they hear everything, and there's a serial killer that's like, today's your last day. That is technically their ordinary world. It's not an inciting incident. The inciting incident would disrupt that ordinary world. So either they're saved, right, and the serial killer gets away, or that's considered a flash forward and we go back to the beginning before they were taken, and now that's actually considered a flash forward or a coda, or you can make that sort of like a prelude to the inevitable, and then you go back to the beginning, and now the ordinary world is it starts them in their true ordinary world, right? So whatever you start the narrative with, that is by default the ordinary world. And then you have to decide as a writer what is going to disrupt that chaos. So if you start in the middle of a war, like in Saving Private Ryan, they start on Normandy. So the ships are landing, there's a lot of explosions, people are dying, there's chaos, everything's going on. But what is the true inciting incident? Private Ryan's two brothers are killed, and now Ryan is the only son, so they have to go and get Ryan and take him out because he's the only living son. And then that gets us to the basically the next moment, which is Tom Hanks and his crew are being ordered to go into that. So I hope that answers your question. The inciting incident disrupts whatever ordinary world you set up in the beginning. Because technically, I could have written what we're working on right now, this book. I could have started it with the hijack, and the hijack would have been the quote unquote ordinary world, as they say. Oh wait, it did. Thank you. You helped a lot. I appreciate that. I appreciate that I can help you. That's really the goal. All right, so let's do this. So this is going to be 550 words. Now we are going to create the conflict in the chapter, which is Laura is getting ready to leave. The ship is packed, and she's clicking all the buttons, setting up the ship to go. All right. And then the true inciting incident is the gang shows up. The love interest is in the gang, of course. Her ship and her getting help the criminals. Okay. She meets the gang. We already know that. I could leave that. I'm calling the gang is being chased. They get on the ship. They hold her. All right. So I like this. So we actually are going to do this. Laura notices. Of course, notice is always a filter word, so obviously that isn't what we write, but this is an outline. So Laura knows the gang being chased in the area, right? The landing area. Okay. Then the next beat is they get on the ship and hold Laura hostage. Laura. All right, boom. She's hostage now, right? Okay, so we know that the ship gets hijacked, which is ultimately this. Our ship gets. All right, once again. M dash. All right. Who doesn't love an M dash? Oh, by the way, as a little aside here, what I like to do on my free time is sometimes look at manuscripts of quote unquote successful authors. And I like to compare the rules to the tools. And what that means is I was looking at Brandon Sanderson, I was looking at R.R. Martin, I was looking at Susan Collins, and a couple other people that are coming up in my Rewrite the Great series. And I notice they have thousands of semicolons, colons, hundreds of M dashes, right? Lots of apostrophe S's, things like that. So, they use the word saw, sees, heard. All I'm saying is use it strategically, but when it comes to rules where people like never use this word, the reason I'm thinking about this is because the notice filter word in my brain was thinking while working. And you have to remember you're allowed to do whatever you want when it comes to creative, but it's about making real choices, writing choices, and that everything makes sense and adds to the overall experience, and that makes it okay. So when people are like, oh, yeah, you use too many semicolons, you must have used AI because the grammar is correct. You can just take that away and make a stronger sentence. Well, you know what? I wanted the semicolon. Anyway, they get on the ship. Like, for example, is calling. Like, if I was really writing the sentence, that would be the cleanup. That would be the line edit. The field navigator called. Well, actually, I write in past tense. Called Laura on the translator. Translator. Worried and concerned for her. Oh, wait. This is actually a beat. Right. She can't hear him clearly. Slapping the device because we want to see that the translator works and doesn't work. That is a little sketchy. The translator, when I say translator, what I'm saying is it's her way to communicate with people through it. But it also tells, because she's a transporter and she goes to different planets, it also automatically translates the languages so she can understand it. So that's why I just call it the translator for myself. But it's also how she communicates with the field off the navigators and stuff like that. All right. She can't hear the field navigator clearly. Slapping the device until she can. Okay, a couple things. Laura, live you again. All right. You can. Makes a few comments about what's happening. Okay. Before the gang leader takes off her helmet, which is the translator. Helmet, which isn't the translator. That's in her ear. Okay. And he tells her. He tells her to get this ship moving. Get the ship moving. Barbara Babecock in Star Trek TSO. TSO. What is TOS? Star Trek. What is that? Oh, the original series. Isn't it O'Hara? Well, Barbara Babecock. Barbara Babecock. Who is that? Oh, the blonde, the blonde. Let's see. That's her real name. Wait, what? She's 87 years old, still alive. She's married to Jay Sheffield. Wow. Wow. She began a career on television in the mid 50s. Nice, nice. She's won many awards. Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series. Very good. Very good. Look at that. She also has a terrible last name. All right. The translator and computer voice. Oh, that's right. Yeah, she was also married to Hanna-Barbera. Not I mean, what's his face? The guy who maybe I'm wrong on that. Wasn't she married to? I don't know. Maybe she was a girlfriend or something. I forget. I don't remember. This too long ago. Too long ago. Where are we? Oh yeah, sorry. Okay. Let's do this. Okay, so he tells her to get the ship moving, and then this is another beat. The authorities tell them to get off the ship. As the ship starts up, they warn Laura that they'll shoot the ship down. All right. Okay, so since Laura just bought the ship, we want to seed some of that. Laura tells them that she hasn't paid off the ship yet, which also, pays off for her motivations. Obviously, when the ship breaks, she wants to make money to fix the ship. When the ship gets impounded, she obviously wants to put the time into going to get the ship because she still hasn't paid off the ship. And again, if you owe money to a car, and you're not using it, you still have to pay for it. That's the rule. So. All right, and get them out of there, threatening her life. Yes. Okay. So let me talk about this real quick before we move any further. If you notice, I'm not being specific. It's always about being broad with these strokes, right? But they are beats. So Laura is in the process of readying the ship to leave. Let's see. The ship is packed. And she's clicking all the buttons, setting up the ship to go. All right. So that is the first beat that I know in that scene that I would write. So whatever that is, I'm leaving the story element to alone because I'll work on that during the zero draft or the first outline. That's where I start getting, the movement of her experience. But this could be, I don't know, 2, 3, maybe 4 passages, right? It could be 250 to 300 words, whatever the case may be. The gang shows up. All right. So this will be another maybe 250, 300 words, depending, unless I want to make it quick, right? So the pacing might be, she notices him. She's like, what's going on? She might be confused, right? And I could also do that. I could write those beats in there. Laura doesn't know what's going on. She's confused. People running in the yard, the landing yard, right? Okay. Right. So I don't have to go into detail with the outline. So why am I telling you that? Because when you're outlining, remember, leave yourself a lot of room and freedom to explore the details in the story part. Because remember, narrative is made up of plot and story. Plot is what needs to happen no matter what, which is what we see on the screen. And then the story is how it unfolds through the emotional experiences and choices of your character. And that's the part that's in the draft. I would say it starts in the zero draft. It develops in the first draft. Your voice is added to the second draft. Then it starts getting cleaned up in the third draft because your beta reader should have read it by then. Your fourth draft is fine tuning and whatever. But ultimately, I never want to go too deep with the scene beats. But I might be like, this happens, and that's also okay too. But I try not to give myself a chance to, as as per se with the box down question earlier, do you ever box yourself in? Not even in first person, but in general. Well, one of the biggest fears that my clients come to me with about outlining is feeling boxed in. Well, if it's outlined, I can't do anything. But the thing is, the gang shows up is so broad and so general that how they show up is still open for discussion, right? Because if you're writing a narrative and you're like, well, I know the gang has to show up, but I don't. But if I outline how they show up, maybe I feel boxed in. But in reality, you're always allowed to change everything, even after it's published. And if you don't believe that, then you've never read The Hobbit before. It was rewritten by Tolkien. You've never, Frankenstein was rewritten by its author. So Mary Shelley. So you're always able to adjust and clean up. You're never truly boxed in by an outline. But the reason I go with broad general statements and sort of ideas is because this is going to expand into something else. It just is, right? Because the other thing you're going to notice during this process is when I write the zero draft out, it's also going to be just the plot. It's going to be written out. It's going to have a more narrative feel to it, but it's going to be just me going, oh, the gang shows up. All right, let me write out how the gang shows up. And then it'll be she doesn't know what's going on and confused. So let me write her not knowing what's going on and her acting confused, right? But then when I write my first draft, I will lead up to the gang showing up, or I would lead up to Laura processing it, because that's where I start adding my voice as a writer. I start adding a little bit of flavor to it. I start doing the immersion, and I start really getting nitty gritty. So I'll create a flow into, a flow out of, and it starts becoming a little bit more. The word count does increase. Let's just put it that way. All right, the field navigator. Okay, now let's get to the third moment. All right, the ship gets shot at, and the authorities start getting into ships of their own. That's a good beat. So that's a beat. Laura is nervous. None of the gang know how to use the ship, so it's all on her. She tries to hook up the device for quick travel, but she is nervous. Okay, so that's actually a beat. So, okay. It scratches and slightly damages the ship, but more of a appearance and less of a functional destruction. All right. Scratches, slightly damages appearance, functional. By the way, all great writers have great editors. If you can't spell, that doesn't have anything to do with your writing ability. I used to be very self-conscious about that before I got into the industry, and I've worked for over 10 years. And I assure you, everyone has trouble spelling in the industry, especially when you're in the room and like if they're writing on the board, like if you're working at like a table or like they're working on a TV show and you're like, that is not the way you spell house. Whatever. All right. The authorities are getting off the planet and are okay. So what this means is Laura. Laura gets her. Oh wait, of course her ship's off the ship because they're scratching the things, right? Okay, so this would be they hit her ship as she leaves the landing yard and into space. Okay, but they're not in their ships flying yet. Should be clear about the authorities. The authorities are not in their ships and flying it. Okay, but okay. She leaves. the yard and into. Okay. Boop. Little moments like that is what I'm saying. By the way, if anyone has any questions about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, if you have questions about your own stuff that relates to what we're working on or just in general, know that you can ask me. All right, the authorities get off planet and are reaching them in outer space. Okay, just in time. Oh yeah. They get out of there just in time, but before they do, the ship is hit by guns and damaged. Okay. All right, so there we go. All right, well, not bad. 45 minutes, did a chapter. All right, I'm gonna do something else while we're here. We have 15 minutes. I'm gonna give the floor to everybody in a little bit, but the next step that I like to do is I like to look at what the. So I have 3 beats here, right? So let's go to here. All right. Boop. Boop. What's Thomas doing? I honestly don't know. All right, let's do this real quick. Some. Did I do that right? Is it like this? Oh, yeah, there we go. Do. And 13. All right, there you go. And 13. Oh wait, no, this is P13. I'll tell you what I'm doing in a second. I adjusted the way I use this sheet, and all right, okay. Boop. All right. Okay. Here's the situation. My parents went away. All right. So this is chapter 1. I don't have a title for it yet. We will get there. All right. We're going to go back. And this is, okay. So the first scene is Laura pulling up in her ship. Okay. And then it's, let's see. Then it's Laura lands the ship and unloads the truck. Okay. Laura lands and unloads ship. Okay. And then we go back, and then it's her with her family. Okay. Family dinner. So now I know what these scenes are. Oh, yeah. So let me go to the other page. Yeah. All right. So Laura Olivia pulls her ship in to into wait a minute. Oh wait, yeah, ship. Okay, so here it is. Boop, this is the whole thing. Laura pulls her ship into the inner space of her planet, having just used the space speed device. That is what's known as a story beat. Okay, the next beat within that is Laura. So if this is the first beat, seeing and experiencing the ship pulling into inner space and having just used the lightspeed device, this is a sub beat to that experience, which creates a conflict too, right? I'm creating a conflict as an issue. This is another beat. Laura has a small issue locked into a place to disengage from it, right? This is another beat that must happen. The plot must happen, right? So Laura has low fuel, light goes on, right? So now that has to happen. That becomes a beat. And then finally, another beat, Laura calls into the planet. That becomes a story beat. Okay. So this is a plot point, right? The plot point is ordinary world. So this entire chapter is filled with plot point 1, which is we are just exploring her ordinary world. We're building on it. And then within that plot point, you create story beats, and they can be whatever you want. If we look at Act 2, this is the first beat. Laura shows up to the docks. Laura is speaking with the field navigator, right? And they talk about all these things. And those become beats that you sort of play with in the story, where you like write them out, you work through it, you create the dialogue, right? But this would be the story beat behind what it is you write. I hope that answered the question. All right, where are we? Let's go back here. All right, so I keep track of everything, okay? I'll have a timeline, the months that I create, my character list. I know this all seems complicated, but we will go through it as I go through it. So right off the bat, scratch his nose. This is the first scene. So I am going to go back here, and I'm going to select all of it, and then I'm going to go 336 words. Dang. All right, and these are my notes. 336 words. All right. Why do I have it go all the way over here? Because as I develop right now, I'm gonna do this because I'm working on the notes and not necessarily the zero drift. You are absolutely welcome. By the way, as always, I like your name. All right, the YouTube name. This just lets me, as you can see, the total comes up here. This gives me a rough guesstimate of where my book is at, just at the stage I'm at the time. So this is, and then I slowly but surely build on it, right? And the reason I have the summary written is because until I get to that section, I just let it just fill up through the whole thing just so I could see it growing. This right here I have as it adds 137% to the word total of the zero draft, because that's usually how much more I write. And then I use that as my threshold. I don't want to write more. Like, let's say, for argument's sake, this chapter was 336 words, which that would be that never happened. And it says that I'm going to write in about 800 words. I know that I don't want to write more than 800 words, but I can write less than and still be in good shape. All right. So that's just something for me. All right. Now we got to do scene number 2. Scene number 2. All right. 155, 155. And then, of course, let's do this one. 177. So right now, I have 668 words for chapter 1, and I feel good about that. Okay, let's do this. I have to sneeze. I sneezed all day and all night. Oh, son of a... Excuse me. All right. I made a mistake. Do not judge the Thomas. We all make mistakes. This is the prologue, and I actually don't have one here. I don't have a prologue. All right. Boop. Okay. All right. Then, just so I don't have to do all the moving around and everything, I will just copy and paste for this. Boop. Okay. And then I can do this. I can do this. All right. What we got here? Oh, hi. Just joined in, feeling a bit better today, so I'm going to try to work on my story. That's awesome. Hey, anytime we know that you're working and we can root you on and you can keep us up on your accomplishments, which is, remember, writing one word a day is more than not. So thank you for letting us know, and thank you for joining. Thank you for jumping in. All right, let's see. Now, chapter 2 looks like it only has, it has 3 beats. All right. So the first one is 59. All right. This one is going to work. All right. And then the next one is the hijack. They got hijacked. All right. Boop. 202. Okay, let's see. All right, hijacked. Laura gets hijacked. Okay. Oh, they escape. That is exciting. All right, so finally, bloop. 123. And why do I do this? This helps me on many levels. One, if somebody hires me, or if I'm working in another professional scenario where, like, say, a studio is talking to me or something like that, I know where I'm at with my numbers, and I know how, like, honestly, this is pretty good, right? So within 700 words, right? If I do 1200, whatever, as I build, I'm going to see that grow, and it'll give me some insight on how far I am and then where I know I'll be. And just knowing my numbers gives me time dates, and like I can give guesstimates on stuff. But it also shows me how much I grow from one section to another, which also tells me if I came up with 202 words just as the notes, and then the zero draft ends up being 1,500 words. Well, every time I see 200 on the page, I know that I might end up with 1,500 words, right? And it helps me with my word count as I'm building. It keeps me aware of that. Okay, let's see. Location. All right. Landing yawn. Okay. Oh wait. Landing yawn. Okay. I need a name for that, and I don't have one yet, so we'll just put that there. Now, see the one. I don't know if you can actually see this. Let's make it bigger. Okay, so landing yard. This just keeps me track of the order in which things show up. Technically, this would be the order. Inner space. All right. I need a name for that inner space area, because that's the first location we run into. And then the next one is Laura's house, right? Which is technically just Laura's house. Okay. There's no landform. I don't have a planet. Oh, I could do that too. That is something I could do. Planet. All right. When I put it in the quotes, I know that means that I have to name it. All right. A, B, C. Easy as 1, 2, 3. This I'll do a little bit later. Elements I'll do a little bit later. And plot points. We're not up to plot points yet, but as I develop the zero draft and the first draft, I'm going to start developing more plot points. We already have the main narrative and the important plot points that we built through this, right? And if we go all the way down here, just for anyone who's watching, this is all we have 6 plot points that we have created in the foundational element of this narrative. And they are all there, and they all have full arcs. But as I'm writing and developing, I'm going to come into areas where I create more or less. What we got here? On the current novel I'm working on, I'm making its first outline. So there are 3 cities there. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah. Especially what's nice about different locations and stuff, it gives you a chance to really create new and unique areas that add not only to the narrative, but allow sort of like respites from what we experience. So like, when you're dealing with 2 POVs, like if you look at Game of Thrones, if you're King's Landing or Winterfell, just the environments themselves give you so much room for changing the flow of narrative, right? Because just the traditions and culture and the land masses, right? So it's cool that you have 3 cities to play with. That does help. It's an old novel I wrote 3 years ago, so I'm going to rewrite it. I love hearing that. No novel is done. You know what I'm saying? And even the old ones. In fact, Brandon Sanderson. Again, I'm only using him as an example, but Way of Kings was an old book that he basically went back and rewrote and reworked, and it became The Way of Kings. All right, so it's we did 1 hour. We did another chapter. I think that's exciting. So this is where I give the floor to the audience. If you have questions about what we did today, what I am doing with this, how I am outlining, or if you have questions in general about writing, I am a developmental editor and I am a writing teacher. If you have questions about your book too, please feel free to ask questions. This is where we do it. Flowers. My PP5 is less on track as MC1 takes action slower than expected as MC2 needs to show his face. It's looking like it's going to be stretched over 2 or 3 chapters. Should I try to move PMC2's chapter back? Ooh. All right. So this is a really good question, actually. This brings up something important about the 27 plot point outline. The only character that has to stay within the structure of the 27 plot points is the character that is moving through that arc. What does that mean? All right, let me bring up the screen. Let me come down here. All right. Let's say you have MC1, MC1, right? And MC2, right? Wait, let me do this. This will take 2 seconds. Just give me a second. I do this all the time. Just give me uno momento, por favor. All right. We'll just do the first act just as an example. Okay. And then all right. Columns. Do. Columns. I'm just making so you can see both things. Boop. Okay. All right. You can see that. Oh, because obviously MC2 is finding stuff out too, but yeah, MC1 is the main man kind of thing. All right. I'll get Angela. Angel, let me answer Flower's question real quick. So let's say, and I'm not even gonna go crazy with this. All right, let's just go. Works at an office. Okay. It gets a promotion. Okay. Whatever, and then has to relearn their job. Okay. This is a great opportunity, but it's stressful. All right. Okay. But they jump in and do their best. The boss notices. Okay. Whatever. All right. And then let's say MC2. Can I ask a question though? Just answer me this. Is your MC1 and MC2 dealing with separate things, or are they in the same world of the narrative? For example, let's say I am working as a soldier and MC2 is also a soldier, but we're coming at a mission at 2 different points, meaning we get to see me going towards a mission and then they're coming in towards another. Like, is it like that, or are they in the same environment? That'll just help me with the next part of explaining the 27 plot points real quick. So while you're writing that out, I'll answer Angel's concern. So will the draft 0 you are currently working on could be also called long outlining, because the other outline I'm using as a short. The 0 draft is technically whatchamacallit. Where is it? So the short form outlining is what we did first. That's that's this, where I just wrote out like whatever. The extended outline, or the 0 draft, right? It's 2 parts. So the first part is what I'm doing right now with this. This is the extended draft, and it's going to lead into the 0 draft, which is a whole another step, but it's all part of step 4. It's just one long step. All right. What we got here? What we got? Boop. Oh, 1 second. MC has been convicted by someone else. He should help PC1 realize something. They are in the same world at the same time. All right. So let's say, using this as an example, now they are in the same world. The best friend is MC2 in this example, and they want a promotion. Okay. Doesn't get the promotion. Okay. We could even say doesn't care about job. Okay. And then has to relearn the job. I don't know why I wrote joke. Okay. All right. Is upset at MC1. Okay. Challenging their relationship. Okay. So let's go back to your question and then I'll show you. So plot point 5 is less on track as MC1 takes action slower than expected as MC2 needs to show his face. In this example, they are they are basically working at the same beat level. All right. They have the same exact outcome. Okay. But let's say I'm doing what you're doing. MC1 storyline needs to happen in order, no matter what. Right. That's the one that you want to maintain the flow of narrative. Okay. So the MC1 is how you base the movement of your narrative. However, what I can do is, let's say, let's do this. The best friend gets a job at the same office. All right. Is learning under their friend. MC1 feels like MC2 is going to be trouble. All right. You could do this as well. Yes, right. Yeah. So we could introduce the best friend here, MC1 friend, in plot point 1. You can do that. But they might not have an ordinary world. Their ordinary world might be, I want a job. And then, or to give a better example. Okay. Best friend needs a job. Okay. And then what you can do, right, is this. And it doesn't, and if you notice, I'm putting like spaces in there. So best friend needs a job. Well, then maybe we don't see the best friend getting a jobs, but MC1 gets the promotion, then they have to learn the position, and then they're like, oh, I have a higher position, I can hire you. So then they hire MC2. So the second MC, again, that's also fine. If the MC appears early on, then there's a big gap. That is fine. It's just the character that's moving the narrative should be MC1. Right? You could also do this. Like you can make the first chapter be 3 beats, which is the best friend needs a job. MC1 tells gets them an interview, and then by the end of the chapter, they come out and tell MC1 that they got the job. Like you could do that technically. All right. So this is the only one you have to worry about that is consistently moving the narrative forward. But the other characters and their arcs, they can happen in one chapter for three beats or 2 beats. One whole chapter could be all 9 beats technically. But the only one you want to sort of breathe a little bit more is the main character. You want the main narrative to flow through their experience, and these characters just happen to be involved in that narrative, even if it looks like this. Whatever the case is, the only thing I would suggest is starting your narrative with at least something that eludes the MC1. That's important. So you are welcome, Flowers. You are welcome. That's the biggest thing I would say is, because if you set up the world as ordinary for MC2, but it's MC1 story, that would sort of kind of make an issue, unless of course MC2 story starts in the prologue. Now we're okay, or the prelude. But we should always start within at least that's why James Bond movies, who do we start with? Even though they're technically prologues, right? The dun 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 dun, dun, right? The whole thing, right before the song starts, the title music, right? It's always in his POV because you want to set the world in their POV. All right, I hope that helped. I hope that helped. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Oh, wait. We had another question. Boop. Oh, wait, I answered this one. Yeah. I answered the zero draft question. That's a good question. Good question. All right. Anything else? Do. I'm pretty excited about working on this story, by the way. I think this narrative is going to come out fun. I think we're going to explore some really good ideas. I have been thinking about the twist that I kind of slipped in. I might end up not using it. I might just go with a traditional, as a beginning and middle and end. I do sort of want to just make it a one-off, but you never know. People might be like, "Hey, Thomas, can we see more of this Laura Olivia? Hello." All right, what we got? Wish I could be here for every Sunday, but I work every second weekend. These are fabulous. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Cindy. That means a lot to me. In more ways than one, because it means that it gives me motivation to keep doing these. And because the whole thing about this channel is about showing and teaching and letting people watch the process. And I think, the fact that you can rewatch it, it's a playlist. I think all that is also hopefully helpful for everyone. But just the fact that anyone, including yourself, gives me their time in general means a lot to me. So using plot points is like extended outline. No. Let me formulate this sentence here. So the short form outline, okay, is where you take each plot point and you just build character arcs within that plot point. Okay, so we have everybody's the short form version. I'll get to the extended in a second. The short form is where you create the basic character arcs throughout the entire plot points. Even if we go back to what Flower was asking, I put everybody's plot points together, and then, as needed, if I was doing two POVs or it was a much bigger book, they wouldn't necessarily be in the same chapters. I would break up chapters and stuff like that. The extended outline is where I take a plot point and then I build on that and create chapter beats. And then that's where I ultimately create the other. I'll have to escape as someone needs me. Well, go have fun. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate the questions. First sip of the night. I know I don't have my Diet Cherry Pepsi. Please forgive me. I feel like a failure. Could just be because ultimately I ran out. I know it's terrible. Anyway, all right. I guess we start getting to the final thoughts of it all. Let's do that. Final thoughts. Look at my final thoughts. Let me get me over here. All right. So next week we are going to try to do chapter Thrace. Well, I could just put that here. 3. Look, I did a little bit more work. Isn't that nice? All right. So my final thoughts are very simple and straightforward. Ultimately, when working on your extended, this is the extended outline. When working on your extended outline, this is where you're going to start worrying more about, as we said earlier, your story beats. And we took something as simple as Olivia pulls into her ship. Because if we look at the original one, right? We said she's a nobody. We said that she owns a transporting company, right? These are really general, right? And then we turned it into something. We created a rhythm of scenes. and we plot out how we see the scene playing out. And this is my opening scene. Ultimately, I want to see the ship pulling in. I want to see her having some issues with the ship so we can notice her using a quick thinking. We want to show her thinking on the spot. We want to learn a little bit about the planet. We want to develop the relationship with this plot point. We want to see the helmet. So as you can see, the extended outline allows us to deal with the story beats within a moment or a scene. And I also, as I said, I like to do this little thing right here to indicate where a scene uh, either is changing completely, a soft chapter break or a hard chapter break, or if I was doing multiple POVs, by the way, these would actually say chapter 1. It might look like this. It might go chapter 1, Laura, and then if it was someone else, it might say chapter 1, Thomas, whatever the case may be. And it would just be like written like that. But since it's all in her POV and it's just chapter 1. So try using the rhythm of the scenes by creating the story beats of an idea and just work out the general form of it. If you're going to do another scene or a scene change or a location change within the same chapter, make sure that you create that header like that. So just so you know, I might even do this occasionally, right? Hard chapter break, right? Into landing area, right? Or I might say soft chapter break, right? Soft chapter break. This probably would be a soft chapter break, to be honest. This, however, where she sits with her family, would be a hard chapter break. Okay. And those are just indicators so you can understand the rhythm and the flow of your story. What's up, two? The cat has arrived, everybody. The only reason everyone shows up, the cat. What, do you want to go out? There you go. Oh, she was trying to escape. She didn't know how to get out. All right, because she was sleeping, taking a nap. And also, finally, as you can tell, I don't always have to go back for a lot of seating detail. As we saw, I just had to go back for the field navigator, and then I need to name them. That was really the biggest seed. So it's not always going to happen, but allow yourself to go back and seed as things come up. I'm sure once we get to chapter 3, I might have to seed something here, or even back in chapter 1, especially if it has to do with the ship. Because the idea, seeding is so important because it earns the result of something. It earns a character's knowledge. It earns a character's skill. All these wonderful things. So it's important to keep those in mind. When you write in a first-person POV, do you have to write from MC1, or can you write it from the POV of MC3? An example, a hero party, but written from a party member, not the hero. Let me summarize that. You're asking if I'm writing my narrative in first person, can I switch POVs? You can. You can. You're allowed to. It can be jarring. The thing I would do is not switch within a scene or head hop. If you're going to change POVs to another character, even if it's going to be in the same moment, like re-examining the same moment, I would do it with either a clean chapter change. Chapter 1 is the POV of MC1. Chapter 2 is going to be the POV MC3. I would have an indicator. So I would either have the chapter title be the character's name, or something that alludes to them, or it could be a chapter's name, or it could just say chapter 1 and then have just the character's name small underneath it, to help, because it is in a first person. The other option you have is you could do a hard chapter break, not a soft one, a hard chapter break. And that will allow the audience to sort of know that there is a switch somehow, but you need to indicate that it is that character. And that is why I recommend the chapter change and just sort of reliving that moment, just to keep clarity, because that is the hard part, is the clarity element of first person switching. But you can do it. It is very doable. In fact, I have I'm working on the potential of doing that myself for the second book in the epic fantasy series. I'm writing all 5 books before I because I'm just going to release all 5 books. But in the second book, I have interludes, and those interludes I'm thinking about writing in first person, and then the main narrative is written in third person. Just because the interludes are more of an investigation interlude of other things, so I kind of like want to be in the head of the investigator. So you can very much switch up even POVs. You just have to have clear indicators and quote unquote train your reader in your voice or your methods. That's why if you read Game of Thrones, what does R.R. Martin do? Every chapter is ultimately a character name, you know. I'll hear the answer later. Thanks. Anytime, anytime. Hasta luego, wiedersehen, au revoir. Au revoir? Au revoir? I don't know. No, parlez-vous français? No. Parlez-vous français? Merci beaucoup. Anyway. Thank you. That helps a lot. Hey, anytime, anytime. All right. Let's say I think that's good. We did an hour and 20 minutes. We got some writing done, and oh, remember, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Please like the video. That really helps. The likes definitely help. And of course, you know, sharing the videos is like a loving hug. You know, just, you know, right on YouTube, you just hit like share, and then you create a post. You know, like you know, what is it? Hit share and then create post. That's like saying Merry Christmas every day to me, and I just want you to know it means a lot to me. I'm trying to hit my 4,000 watch hours this year, and I'm like 400 watch hours away, which means I'm still going. I got a little bit. So it would really mean a lot to me. Next video in the series, we will continue on what we're doing. Ultimately, chapter 3. We'll be working on chapter 3. Chapter 3? And sorry about that. We might even be able to do chapter 4 as well, because chapter 3 looks very small. Oh yeah, this is where they're dealing with anything. Also, as an aside, before you go, remember when you're writing chapters, you want to make sure that chapters aren't the same amount of word counts in a row, because if you have like 3 chapters in a row and they're each, even if they're like 1,000 words each, and that's a quick read, that's a short chapter. But if they're each 1,000, what it does is it messes with the narrative pace. So you sort of want to control it by having like you could do like 1,000, then like maybe like a 2,500, and then maybe like a 1,500, and then maybe like another 1,000, and maybe like a 3,000. Like not that I'm giving those numbers as direct numbers you should use, but when writing, you should think about that. Like, did I just write 2 3,000 word chapters in a row? The next chapter maybe should be more or less than that, and that's something to think about. What we got here? What we got? Oh yeah, anytime. A lot of authors using dual POV just put the POV's name before the switch. Yeah, 100%, Cindy. You know, that's the easiest, quickest way to keep the reader in the know, is just inform them with the knowledge. You know, because that is a hard part, transitioning, and but it really comes down to just like let's say, like, if I'm writing this character Laura Olivia in this story, and I switch to the love romance and the love interest, and their name is Jake, whatever. It's not going to be Jake, but let's say it is Jake. If we're in the first person of Laura in her chapter, she obviously would refer to herself as I had to sit there with Jake, and Jake was just talking his mouth off. And then if the next chapter, oh, look at that. If the next chapter is in the POV of Jake, then, you know, start the first sentence off with the, you know, Laura just looked at me, judging me with those eyes. And now we know we're in at least Jake's mindset or whatever. Beep, beep, beep. What two? What? What? Two's here. What do we have? Will the file be available? What do you mean, like what I'm working on? Yeah, yeah. Everything is available. You just go to the folder, and yeah, that's it. The folder file is always in the description of the video, and then it's under free templates. So you look for free resources for writers, and then it'll say subscribe for more videos, the Right Mindset podcast. Then it says free templates. And then there's also a Facebook writing group you can join. It's all free. But if you go to the free templates section, you will see what's it called? It's called Write With Me. And if you go in there, you'll see the files for what we've been working on. And they're all downloadable. You can't edit them in the folder, but you can download it and do whatever you want with it. I do encourage anyone to feel free to use what we've been doing. But the only thing I ask is that, you just maybe in the beginning of the book, you say inspired by Thomas J. Bellezza from The Right Mindset, whatever the case may be. All right, what we got? I find when they use shorter chapters, it's kind of jarring. But if it's an action scene, you get the action better. Yeah, I agree, Cindy. When I'm talking about the chapter lengths and stuff like that, I'm just talking about pacing in general. I personally probably would never ever write 1,000-word chapter just because I write more cinematic. I like to kind of like explore moments and breathe through them. So I most likely would not have short chapters just because of that. I forfeit the concise element for narrative movement through the experiences of the characters. So it kind of, a lot of my beta readers tell me, hey, like for example, the prologue, and only the prologue, is like 7,000 words. And everyone who's seeing the prologue before reading it was like, that's a lot of words, and that's a long prologue. And then they read it, and I am not making this up. The number one note is, I want more. I wish there was more to the prologue. This was so good. It just kept going, and it was like, it read well, and it pulled me through it. And it's because I write cause and effect and logical narrative movement. I just allow every line to lead into the next line as if you're watching a film. And I think that has to do with the fact that I come from screenwriting and I come from film. So I write in the sense of like as if a camera is, how are we looking at the scene? Like, is it close up? Is it an establishing shot? Is it a mid? Is it an over the shoulder? Whatever the case may be. So that does help. Like, so it's not necessarily the length. It also has to do with how thick the chapters are, and slow pacing in general is the speed at which information is presented to your reader. And if you're presenting a lot of information, that slows down the pace. And what would that look like? It means that you're describing things in detail. It means that we're going inside the emotional truth of the characters and like taking it apart and analyzing it. And then a quicker pace would sort of be like, well, if I gave you an example, it'd be, Thomas wrote at his desk, filing out each word with a quick swift of his fingers as they tap along, as they click along on the keyboard. That would be fast paced. But if it was a slower pace, it would be Thomas pressed down on each letter, the softness of the keys, rattled from overuse. He stared at the screen, wondering and contemplating the next word before he found the sentence flowing gently from his mind into his hands. Like, that becomes slower just because we're living in the moment, we're breathing in that, right? So you could keep it just constantly going with those high pace, quick movements. But what I went off on a tangent. The chapter lengths, all I'm saying is that the reason you don't have 3 chapters in a row that are 2,000 words, let's say, is because it becomes like monotonous, right? So you use the chapter lengths to sort of help with the reading experience. But there is a really good rule that, like, a shorter chapter pulls your reader, and a longer chapter allows your reader to sit in the moment a little longer. But that isn't necessarily, that's not me talking about pace. Because again, pace is the information, the speed at which information is presented. But 1,000-word chapter can feel long if the pacing is slow, because it's just filled with details and emotion and all these other things, right? That not necessarily a bad thing, but it could be. But short chapters do pull the readers through the experience. Planning an action scene at the end of kind, because I and the magic E, so kind. Dual POV, plan on making each change to be about 250. Are you saying that making each chapter to be about 250 to 500? Those are short chapters. Those are short chapters. But again, that's a choice. Like, so that's just an author that helps with your author voice. People will know that, you're sitting in these quick, because you could also, the way I would read that is that you're using your chapters as scenes. So you're cutting more chapters because you have more scenes. Instead of having 3 scenes in a chapter, you're just making a chapter a scene. That's the way I would read what you're saying, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is a choice, but that would be a real, that's good. It's just boom, 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 boom. What genre is it again? I'm running around 3K for chapters, but if they need to be longer, they are. Look, if you're writing adult anything, especially if it's you have. I'm assuming your next book also has vampires, or is in that world. Sci-fi, fantasy, all those kind of things. 3,000 is right in the middle of. It's close to. Like, for example, 3,500 or 4,000 words is a long chapter, right? So 3,000 is a nice little spot for that. But again, if you do 3 chapters in a row that are each 3,000, you might want to adjust or break up chapters. There is only one vampy in this one. Hey, one is enough, and sometimes you need another. There's nothing wrong with a bloodsucker. You know what I'm saying? Book 3 in my epic fantasy, well, technically book 1 has one, but book 3 has what I call my Laris. The Laris vampires are, because my world has 2 suns, and Laris vampires are light vampires. They absorb the sun to get their power. They also drink the blood, but they get extra power from the sun. But I also have like regular kind of vampires and werewolves and all that stuff. So it's gonna be exciting. Oh yes, the lettuce. They have the blood magic and everything, and then the like traditional vampires have like the mist and the form changing and stuff like that. But to be clear, my epic fantasy is not horror. It's not about vampires. It just so happens they are a species within that world, and it's pretty fun. What we got here? No, just switching POV inside chat. Oh, I see what you're saying. I see you, but probably a couple chapters. Not sure right now. Oh, I see what you're saying. So like every 250 to 500 words, you're doing like a hard chapter break within the chapter and creating a POV. Yeah, that's cool. That is cute. Oh, sorry, retracted the message. I wouldn't have shown it if you retracted. I'm using a third-party device, so it allows me to keep the comments coming. Yeah. Anyway, oh wow, it's 90 minutes in. All right, I guess that's it. Should we call it a day? Let's call it a day. What time is it? It's 3:30 over here. Holy, I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin. I think by you flowers, what is it? What is it? 7 hours more? I think something like that. 5 hours. 5 hours. 5.5 hours. 7:30. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. 5 hours. You're 5 hours there. No, thank you. I appreciate the time and the excitement. 7:30. Yeah. So thanks to everybody again. Please subscribe, share the video if possible. It would mean the world to me. I'm just trying to build up this channel of mine. Whoa, 1234 where I live. Oh, that's LA. You live in the LA, or at least the West Coast, the West area. Very cool. Very cool. All right, with that, let's do it. Let's do our send off. I'm Thomas J. Bellezza. This has been The Right Mindset. I've been enjoying Write a Book with me every Sunday, 2 p.m. Every Sunday live. Feel free to join, ask questions, do as you want. And, you know, oh, yes, the W. Oh, yeah, Washington, Washington. Nice area. Nice area. Bye, everyone. And as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Bye.